Oh. Welcome back, everybody. It is Tuesday at 12 o'clock, so that knows you mean that you're here with us, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, for PGH 2050 Planning with a Purpose podcast. As always, I am here joined with my lovely co host, Muffy. Before we get to anything, Muffy, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's election day.
Yes, go vote. It is election day. Please go
Yes.
vote. We are here every Tuesday at 12. As you know, we'll bring city leaders, everyday residents, thought partners to the table to break down the city of Pittsburgh's ongoing comprehensive plan, to share stories from across communities, sectors, professional spaces, resident spaces, and highlight why inclusive city planning matters for the future. Once again, you can catch us here on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and each episode invites listeners to learn, engage, and imagine a sustainable, thriving Pittsburgh one conversation at a time. Now,
Mm.
we've had this conversation set up for a couple of weeks, and we are so excited to be joined here by Tammy Thompson, who is the president and CEO of Catapult Greater Pittsburgh. Tammy, how are you doing?
I'm here. It's later in the year now, so it's a lot harder for me to lie. You know, typically I'll be like, "Oh, great, I'm fine." It's been a year. It's been a
Yes.
year. So I am tired, but I'm holding on. So I'm okay. I'm okay.
I think a lot of people could echo your sentiments. First of all, thank you for being honest. Most people would do the deep breath, like, I'm okay.
I
But
would have
you,
done that in February. If it was February,
Well, it's almost February 2026, so we're getting the
November,
old version mixed with the new version
right.
together.
it's been a year, man, and I haven't really taken any time off. So I'm tired and yeah, there's a lot to do though. There's a
Well,
lot to
are you
do.
taking some time off though soon?
Actually was grant you guys are the first to know, really. I was granted a sabbatical.
Woo.
Yes.
I have been planning to take off the first quarter of 2026. So we'll
Ooh, you're not coming back to work.
see.
Right.
That's the thing. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, this is great." I was like, "Y'all think it's great? I might
That's
not come."
great. If somebody gave me 4 months off, honey, I wouldn't be anywhere near here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be going to work.
It's going to be a lot to think about, but I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be
Well,
back.
we're really glad that you're sharing your presence and your space with us today. We're here to talk to you a little bit about Catapult and housing in the city. So first
Mm.
we're gonna first of all thank you for joining us. Really love hanging out with you. And for those who may not know you or your journey, I'm very aware of your journey. I've sat in a lot of rooms and heard your stories from here to there. So I love seeing your growth and how much reverence the city has for you. So, can you talk to us a little bit about leading Catapult Greater Pittsburgh and what it's about?
Yeah. So Catapult is a nonprofit that was sort of birthed out of a larger national nonprofit. We used to be Circles Greater Pittsburgh, which was part of Circles USA National Anti Poverty Program. I started working with them locally here in 2014 as a consultant, a program development consultant. Loved it. Had a great time consulting. The executive director of Circles Greater Pittsburgh at the time uh, was getting ready to move on to something else in 2018. And he was encouraging me. He said, "You really need to take this job." And I was like, "I don't want that job." I'm fine. I enjoy consulting. I'm perfectly fine to do this. And they kept pushing. And finally, a mentor of mine was like, "You got to take that job. You are making decisions from a fearful place." And I
Mm,
was like, "Oh, wait a minute." And she was right. I didn't want to take the job because I had never done anything like this before. And so it just didn't make sense. Why would you think I could do it? Long story short, 2018, I took the role, did some strategic planning, realized we should not be paying somebody else to do work that we have to keep adapting.
mm,
Um, So, decided in 2019 that we were going to separate from the national entity. 2020 was the year that we started the process of disconnecting from the national entity. So while all hell was breaking loose publicly, we were behind the scenes rebranding, redeveloping, and being prepared to be completely separate from a larger national entity. In January 2021, we officially became Catapult Greater Pittsburgh. And Catapult, in short, is a nonprofit organization that is hyper focused on being intentional about creating economic mobility opportunities. That is for low to moderate income folks, period. But we have a hyper focus on helping Black folks get what they need to reach economic stability and mobility. And it really birthed out of the 2019 Gender Equity Commission report.
Yes.
For me, it was a driving force for developing an organization that could help Black women reach stability, financial and economic stability, and uh, deter, strip down obstacles and barriers that were preventing people from economic mobility. So, I always say we weren't intentionally becoming an organization that is serving Black folks, but really that's who we're serving. That is and there's evidence that proves why that's important. This city has not done well by Black women.
Mm-hmm.
The city just has not done well by us. And so it was really important for me that we were creating programming that was specific to helping people see that they are also you. This is for you. Yes, home ownership is for you. Entrepreneurship is for you, regardless of implicit or explicit messages that it's not. So over the years, we've turned, we've been helping a lot of folks get out of that survival mode space and begin to acquire and develop assets that can be transferred to the next generation.
That's awesome. I've engaged. I love that, and like I said, I've always been a fan of your trajectory, and I've engaged in a lot of national organizations whose national model do not propel Pittsburgh forward.
No.
And there's a fear to break away from that national. I'm like, we need to adapt to what's going on in Pittsburgh, which is very different from New Jersey or Texas or New York City. We can't do the stuff New Jersey does.
Nope. And you can't. And that's
what has always been the most effective way to reach people. Like, I feel like hyperlocal is underrated.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's always been the most effective way. You can't do the same thing you do in LA and Chicago. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't even make sense, right? You can't be thinking about larger, Florida. And you're like, well, that's not going to work in Pittsburgh. Of course, it's not going to work in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
So, it's important. This is also why I think it's important to travel. I think it's very important for folks in our sector to get out and see what other people are doing. There are cities that are comparable to Pittsburgh that are doing great work, specifically around housing. Baltimore, of all places, Baltimore is outpacing Pittsburgh in solving the housing crisis. I mean, it sounds insane when I say it out loud.
Right.
Cleveland is doing an incredible job of being intentional about creating opportunities for housing. There's other cities that are comparable to Pittsburgh that are doing the things that we need to be doing here. But it's going to take vision, to be honest. It's going to take real vision and people in leadership positions who have vision to make the turn for Pittsburgh.
One of the questions that I was going to get ready to ask you next, and you kind of answered it already, is, Catapult's mission focuses on economic justice, financial empowerment, and community stability, and how housing fits into that broader vision. But I think you've already answered that. My question is, I think this is I don't want to sound silly, but what are the biggest barriers to housing stability and ownership that you're seeing in Pittsburgh, or entrepreneurship? that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when we talk about housing and what we need, it depends on who you're talking to, what they're going to say, right? Some folks have separated the need for affordable rental opportunities and they hyper focus on affordable rental opportunities, which is important. But or you have a group of people who are focused on homeownership
Right.
and they're like, but you can't think of them separately. So here's why I say that. If folks are in a rental situation, in order to get them to homeownership, that situation needs to be stable.
Mm,
To be stable and secure in that housing situation before they can even think about homeownership because your mind you can't get your brain to jump from I'm struggling to pay my rent, I'm struggling to find housing that I can actually afford every month with okay, but yeah, you can become a homeowner. It sounds crazy to people. I'm struggling to navigate this. So both of the things are important for ownership.
right.
People must be in stable rental situations in order to have the mental bandwidth or financial bandwidth to even think about home ownership. So stabilization for me is the most important word that I think gets people forget. Oh, well, so and so can do this, and people can become people can do all of those things, but it's a lot harder to do when folks are not stable in their day to day basic needs. So
Mm,
stabilizing folks is number one. Yes, affordable rentals are important, but opportunities for affordable home ownership are extremely important for asset building and wealth building. I've stopped using the term wealth building when
mm,
talking home ownership though.
why?
This is where I get very frustrated
Yes.
because wealth building opportunities for home ownership are going to depend on where you're buying the house.
Mm,
So if I'm buying a house in a community that has been disinvested in, that has blocks and blocks of vacant property, abandoned, blighted property, and I decide I'm going to buy a house in that community. Or I know somebody who bought a house in that community 30, 40 years ago, and they've done all the things. They paid their taxes, they paid their mortgage, they did the upkeep on their house. But guess what? They haven't seen a return on their investment.
mm,
Not right.
mm,
It's so we can't say that homeowners are wealth building if they're in a community where their market value is not increasing because nobody's investing in the community.
mm,
And we literally have people, Homewood, we have people in communities, Homewood is a prime example, who purchased homes 30, 40 years ago and have not seen an increase in market value.
mm,
To be criminal.
right.
Be criminal. And some of that is out of the control of the residents who live in the community because a lot of this property is owned by the city of Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
Before I give this to Muffy, I'm sorry. If
Mhm.
we're not selling wealth building, if we're not, then what are we selling, right? If we're not selling stability, we're not selling wealth building, why encourage people to buy a home? What are we actually selling?
I think that home ownership can be sold as stabilization. It is a stabilization effort because at least when you own, right, you have some power and control over your housing situation and your life. I'm seeing this every day. People who are renting who have absolutely no control.
Oh, yeah.
Landlords are selling the property. Landlords are abandoning the property, raising rent, not investing back in. So you're stuck. And many people are literally trapped in their housing situation right now. The housing situation is not good, but they can't afford to go anywhere else. So
Right.
they're trapped. That is not stabilization, right? But you need people to be able to be safe and secure in their housing.
Right.
But from a home ownership standpoint, I own it. It might not be, I might be struggling. I might be struggling to pay my rent. I mean, my mortgage. I might be struggling sometimes to pay my taxes. There might be some maintenance issues, but at least I have some work. Nobody can come put me out of this house, right? This is a place where if my children need to come back home, they can come back home. This is I have a stake in what's happening in my community.
Right.
And so home ownership is very important. I think home ownership is a great empowerment tool if people are educated about it properly and if people have the right foundation for home ownership,
Yeah.
which is why that's really important for us as an organization, not only helping people become new homeowners, but also helping to stabilize existing homeowners. And I think that when we talk about affordable housing, very rarely are we including a conversation about affordable home ownership. And I think that is super important to talk about.
And what I'm hearing from you is we're selling emotional safety. We're
Mm-hmm.
selling generational safety. We're
Mm-hmm.
selling mental safety so that I can go out of my house and work and not worry about when I come home is something
Right.
completely different.
That's right. And it's also helping give people a boost of confidence.
Yeah.
Because we talk to people every single day who say things like, I never thought I could do this.
Mm.
I never thought I could do this. Why? I never considered that I could become a homeowner.
Ain't that the American dream?
But not for us because we've been blocked out of it for a long time.
Okay.
Right? A lot of folks who know folks who are homeowners, it hasn't always been a positive experience either. Folks are like, my granny's roof is always leaking. But let me tell you why in some of these communities, granny's roof is leaking. It has nothing to do with granny. It has nothing to do with any deficiencies on granny. Sometimes it's because granny could go get a line of credit so that she can have a line of credit for when repairs need. But guess what? Many mortgage companies are not lending in these communities either. Right. So I might be trying to do the right thing and keep my house up and pay for my roof and pay for maintenance. But if I can't do what most homeowners should be able to do, walk into a bank, if I have equity in my home, I should be able to pull down a line of credit that covers the cost of maintenance. But if I'm in a community where lenders don't see value in my community, where appraisers don't see value in my community, and they won't even appraise the property at enough so that I can get a line of credit, or that lenders even find this community attractive enough to promote lending, then I'm stuck. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So,
And I've heard that story so many times.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
we talk about redlining in terms of home ownership, but we don't talk about it in terms of existing homeowners that they're appraising the property. And it's interesting because a lot of times this is happening pre-gentrification. They're still not even appraising the property at the rate that another person that is not of that same culture going to purchase the property at that rate. They're appraising it at a lower rate. So the person can't even make the updates. They can't even get the property to a place where it's livable. They're absolutely trapped. So thank you.
Trapped. And in a lot of cases, folks are upside down in their mortgages, meaning they owe more on the mortgage than the house is going to appraise for. So they can't even sell it and get out and go somewhere else because I'm not going to get enough at the closing to go somewhere else. So people are literally trapped in some cases. And in a lot of cases, people who have been able to invest in their home and have been able to do the upkeep and all of that, if they were to pick their house up and go 2 blocks to Point Breeze, the difference in value is insulting. And so it's a lot to, and people are like, well, why ain't people buying houses in the hood? Why they got to leave? Well, people are leaving because it's business. Really, home ownership is business.
It makes financial sense.
It makes financial sense for me to buy a house somewhere else where I have the potential for increased market value over time. That's what a home ownership investment is supposed to look like. And it's sad that we have folks who did everything right and still are not benefiting from increased market value.
I want to go back to something you said before when you were talking about how places like Baltimore and Cleveland are, they are much better at ensuring that affordable housing, or recently becoming better at assuring that there's
Mhm.
affordable housing, and that, housing is a good investment.
Mhm.
And we know that we can't exactly replicate what they're doing in Baltimore, but what are you seeing in other places that, as we are developing this PGH 2050 plan, we need to be considering, how are we have one of our scenarios is attainable housing. So
Mhm.
how do we make attainable housing? How do we implement, how do we put into this plan that we are a city that has attainable, that housing is attainable for everybody?
Good question. But I can tell you one of the tactics that's been used in other cities is really getting serious about addressing vacant property. We do a terrible job of managing vacant property in the city and have for decades.
Tammy, I thought we were going to do it with the land bank, but that's been,
Right.
what's
Uh,
up?
well, see, and this is what happens when politics is making decisions. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. Sometimes politics is the problem. Many of these tools that we've had available as a city have been used as political footballs for a very, very long time. And the land bank's been one of them, unfortunately. And also, it's kind of a conflict for the city because the city owns all of this property.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's like, ooh, ooh, we don't really want to talk about it that much because this is our problem. Right. But
Yeah.
some of this has been going on for decades. And I hate when people try to spin it down to one particular political administration.
Right.
This is not about one political administration cycle. This is about multiple cycles of political leadership that have not done what needs to be done to address our vacant and abandoned property issue. So then it sounds crazy when we're like, well, we don't have enough affordable housing. But had we been doing the right thing by our vacant and abandoned property decades ago, we would not necessarily be having this conversation at the in the same way, right? A lot of this vacancy that we see is because it became vacant for whatever reason, tax seizure. A lot of it is based on something that we're addressing as an organization right now, which is tangled titles, helping families learn how to prepare for the primary homeowner to pass away. A
Right.
lot of the vacancy we see is because folks did not plan for their death. And so the property becomes left for the heirs to figure out. And even as we're not even educating the heirs about what to do with the properties. So, and that JP Morgan Chase did a study, $32 billion worth of asset wealth being lost across the country due to tangled titles.
Wow.
$32 billion. There are a little over 4,000 people in the city of Pittsburgh who are in a tangled title situation, many who don't even know it. And that is just continues the cycle of abandonment because if you get these properties, let's just say my mom passes away, she didn't have a will. I'm her only heir. I think because I've always lived in this house with my mom, this has always been my home, that when she dies, I automatically get the house. It's mine. Technically, yeah, but legally, no. You can't get your name on the deed automatically when somebody dies. That's not how it works. So if you die without a will, your heirs are kind of left out there to figure out how to solve that legal entanglement and get their name on the deed. It costs a lot, it's expensive, it's time consuming, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can get scammed out of your it's a lot. So people end up they try to hang in there as long as they possibly can, but the minute the house needs maintenance, they can't get any loans or lines of credit because the deed is not in their name.
Mm.
They can't even participate in a URA program if their name is not on the deed. So eventually people will stay and they'll try to do their best, but eventually the house will deteriorate and folks end up just walking away. And this is contributing to our vacancy and abandonment and blight. But as a city, one of the things I think Baltimore, and I'm not going to go into details about who's doing what, but what I will say is this: the common factor across these cities that are doing well is that their political folks are on board.
They're aligned. Yes.
Aligned, they're on board, they're supporting agencies and entities that are doing this work. They're working together collectively and collaboratively, and they're helping to fund it.
Mm.
And unfortunately, as a city, we don't do that well. We think that the nonprofit organizations are supposed to fix it all,
Fill the
right?
gap.
The nonprofits are supposed to fix government's problems, and that is not going to work.
That's become the mindset.
It's
I
become the mindset.
recognize.
Well,
I
we'll
recognize.
just let the nonprofits fix it. And the
Yeah.
nonprofits are killing themselves
Yeah.
trying to solve a problem that doesn't belong to them.
Right. And so, how do
So
we give it back?
we need leadership who understands their role in this problem.
Mm.
That's the bottom line. We need leadership from council to mayoral administration to county executive to governor.
Mm.
Every level of government in this state needs to be talking about how to collaboratively fix this mess. Because here, let's just take people out of the equation. This is what I'm learning in the nonprofit sector. I can't be approaching people, funders and folks talking about, well, we got to do it for the people because for the most part, anybody trying to hear that.
No.
That was a hard lesson for me to learn. What I learned is I got to talk about money. How does it impact the city or the county globally? How does this, well, and think about it. Think about blocks and blocks, dozens of empty, vacant, abandoned property that nobody's paying taxes on. That's money getting flushed down the toilet that this city is struggling because we don't have enough tax revenue.
Mm.
We're not making enough tax revenue. Now, this is where it gets very hard to have this conversation. And I'm trying to think of a way to say it without becoming the villain. But the reality is this: we don't want market rate housing in our communities. People don't want market rate housing in their communities because they have been told that it's a bad thing, right? Some of them have seen that it can be a bad thing.
Right.
But if it's done right, if it's done responsibly, if it's done the right way, it is how these communities are going to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot build market rate housing and expect revitalization in communities. Because when I'm talking about market value and I'm talking about people starting to finally see a return on their investment, that's only going to happen with new sales happening in a community. And those sales need to be in line with what the market is. So, I see it all the time. I see people say, oh, $250,000 for a house in Homewood. That they would never say $250,000 for a house in Point Breeze. The house is the same house. Why does where it is diminish its value? And as people from these communities, we are the ones saying our community is not worth that level of investment.
Mm.
And every time we say that, we are hurting another homeowner.
Right.
We're hurting the people who are waiting for some increase in market value so they can at least get their money back, so they can at least see some level of return. The problem has been trying to do that responsibly. It has to be done responsibly. It has to be done considering all residents of the community. And that's where I think developers get in trouble is folks are like, well, that ain't my job to figure out. We're just building houses. But unfortunately, there's a lot of work that has to be done to, first of all, get the community to trust that you're building responsibly so that folks are not being displaced. It's a very complicated situation. But what I do know as somebody who's been in real estate, and I didn't start my career in the nonprofit sector, I started in real estate. So I understand how market value works. I understand how development works to an extent, how it would work if it were being done well. And I think right now we're just this city that just doesn't understand nuance. That
Mm.
doesn't understand, right? We don't understand nuance. It's
Everything
either
is one thing at a time. Yeah.
it's black or white. No, it's not. It's not black or white. And I think because we have been hesitant to do development at a large scale, to increase our market values over time, we are now in a very precarious situation as a city.
But
Um,
Tammy, I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. Every time I go into a conversation with Pittsburgh or these neighborhoods, they're very staunch about keeping their culture. They're very
yeah.
staunch about keeping that identity of the neighborhood. They're very,
Hmm.
they will not budge around the culture and protecting the culture and what currently feels like home, Muffy.
But
Hmm.
as a native Pittsburgher, I think one of the issues is that most native Pittsburghers have never seen scenarios where incomes can exist at multiple level, and we don't recognize that that is the social infrastructure that creates thriving communities. Because
Yes.
when we talk about infrastructure, oftentimes we talk about it from a building space, and like Tammy said, like it's not, people understand physicality of things.
Hmm.
Oftentimes what people don't understand is that nuance of psychology,
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
social necessity, that's
Yeah.
Hmm.
necessary in order for a community to thrive. And so when
Hmm.
folks are thinking about like, okay, why can't there be a $250,000, home, automatically folks are thinking about the physicality of it. I can't afford $250,000. I don't want somebody living next door to me that has a home for $250,000 because is my rent going to go up? Am I going to
That's
get
the big
outpriced
fear.
out of my community? So
That's the fear.
the question
That's
is,
the
how
fear.
do we get people to understand? Because I am a, well,
Hmm.
initially I lived in the Borough Street projects
Hmm.
before the people came in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I can credit that experience with why I graduated from college. Because
Hmm.
there
Wow.
were people that lived next door to me that were also going to college. There were people that lived in my neighborhood that were doing, like, there was a multitude of people in one space doing different things, and it allowed you to see multiple variations of what you
Yeah.
do.
Mm.
Mixed income communities is
Mixed
how other
income.
folks are doing it. So both to get to your answer, the way other cities are doing it is they are using a mixed income model. And so here's a you know where Brickell in Miami is?
Yeah. I know.
Beautiful Brickell, right? It's like downtown Bay Area side of Miami. I was at a conference and went on a housing tour in Brickell, and Brickell is known as sort of a high end kind of community. I mean, it's like downtown Miami. It's beautiful. There was a developer there who was taking us on a tour of an apartment building, and when we walked in there, that thing was beautiful. And I was like going through, and they talk. I'm like, this is mixed income.
Mm.
The income they were paying at the top end market rate was $4,000. The low end was $680.
Ooh.
Now, how did they do that? Right? Well, because you got people in the building who are willing to pay $4,000, and that $4,000 is going to subsidize, right, the folks who are at 680. You
Right.
couldn't. So and having mixed income is how developers can afford to do. You can't do affordable housing honestly in this climate without, nobody is funding 100% affordable. Very few folks are doing it. I mean, you can count on one hand how many people can do 100% affordable housing. The cost to build is crushing. The cost to build, and guess what? The cost to build a affordable house and the cost to build a market rate house, guess what? They're the same. You don't go to Home Depot and say, "Oh no, I need the affordable housing discount. I'm building affordable housing. I need the cheaper." No, it's still going to cost the same. So somebody has to pay for it. Somebody has to pay for it.
How?
And
Sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
that's okay. I just think I think fear. I think fear of the unknown,
On both
fear
sides.
on both sides has
Mhm.
kept this and let's just be clear. The city of Pittsburgh has been so segregated for so long that when folks who grew up in a predominantly black community that may have been and of course, and I hate to say it, but almost every predominantly black community in this city is a low income community,
Hmm.
right? So there is a fear that's palpable, that's very real for people that are like, if that starts to happen, I see it on social media. I saw somebody say, I saw a white woman walking her dog. And she, seriously, I saw a white woman walking her dog here. So now I guess the
The
gentrification is.
neighborhood's turning. I do say that jokingly, like
But here's the sad part
Well,
about
it
that.
is the rhythm. It is the
it's
pattern.
the rhythm. It is a rhythm.
Here's the sad part about that, though. So what we're saying is now that it's safe enough for a white woman to walk her dog down the street, we see that as a bad thing
Right.
versus a good thing. Because guess what? If it's safe enough for her, it's also safe enough for you and your family.
Right.
Right. So but that's how we have been trained to think. When we start getting nice things in our community, it
Mhm.
ain't for us.
I agree with you. I remember talking to
Agreed.
a couple of folks from Larmer about
Mm-hmm.
in East Liberty very early on, and the
Mm-hmm.
milkshake factory was there. I was like, oh, I don't got to go to South Side for the milkshake factory. They were like, we ain't going there. I can.
Yeah.
I ain't never.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you an even bigger, a even sadder story. Years ago, when East Liberty first started getting developed, maybe this had to be almost 15 years now. There was a public community meeting that was happening, and folks were talking about the Borders bookstore. Remember, there was a bookstore down here.
Hmm.
This woman stood up and said, "That ain't for us. Black people don't read." I was like, "What? Where? What's happening?
Wow.
Why? Why? Like, it's just like,
It's
But is it
it's
that we don't
racism.
see?
It's internalized and externalized racism. So
Yeah.
mhm.
so
You have.
other
But it's
people have
also like
accepted that
I
we're
can't.
one way and we've accepted it too. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to
Isn't it?
protect myself and my community, the best way to protect us is to keep that stuff out of here.
Right.
Because as long as that stuff is not here, the other people won't come and I'll be able to afford to stay
I
here.
don't
It
want to
should
believe
tell
that. I hate to believe that that's the Pittsburgh personality.
I
The
think
it's
that's
not
very
a
windy.
national
this is
personality.
I
Most
mean,
most people are
from
invested in upholding their social infrastructures
from a survival, put yourself in a survival mindset.
from a
From a
survival.
survival standpoint, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Well, it might be rough, it might be tough, it might be not
But it's
100% what I
mine.
of for me and my family, but at least I know we can stay here.
Right.
Right.
This is the place that other people don't find attractive, so we're safe here. And
Mhm.
honestly, even saying that outside breaks my heart.
Right.
It breaks my heart that people panic when they see new or nice homes being built is a bad thing. New
Mm.
stores built is a bad thing. It being safe enough for people to walk down the street is a bad thing because
Wow.
it threatens my security, and I hate it. I hate that is
I just
people's.
had to
That's
take a deep breath on that because I'm just like, that is.
it's terrible. I don't know what the answer is, right? I don't know what the answer is, but what I know is
But I
that we're
think you
running.
do, Tammy. I think you said it at the beginning of the conversation. I think what people are hesitant to invest in, but what is really needs to be invested in is one, mindset, two,
Mhm,
social trust, and three, building a bridge between those two things.
Wow.
Building
mhm,
a bridge between change mindset and
yeah,
the social trust that's necessary so that people
yeah.
can move forward. Because I think people want action at the end of the day. But
People
like you
do.
they don't understand the nuance that's necessary to get there.
That's
Wow.
right. And they also don't understand how all of these things are connected,
Yes.
right? So if our school, I hate to even bring up the schools,
All right.
but schools are fed by tax revenue.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They're fueled by real estate taxes.
Yeah, they
So
are.
if you have a whole community where a quarter or even more of that community is vacant, blighted, and nobody's paying taxes, how do you think that impacts the quality of your child's education?
Right.
Communities that have larger percentages of owner occupied home ownership have the best schools. That's
Yes,
just
they
the
do.
reality.
Yep.
Yes, they do.
Because the funding is there, right? The revenue from their tax base is, Fox Chapel is a prime example. Fox Chapel School District is one of the best school districts in the state.
Mhm.
Real estate price,
Mhm.
though, right? I don't think you can buy a house in Fox Chapel for less than not $900,000
Yep.
right
But I
now.
can't say that I don't feel like the segregation of communities, one, is not perpetuated
It's intentional.
and it's intentional. And I don't know what the goal is for the city, right? I don't know what the goal is. We're smaller than Brooklyn, right? What is the goal here?
I'm
The
gonna tell you.
goal is
I'm gonna tell you
maintaining
this, and
this
I probably
poverty and the
shouldn't.
status quo. What's the goal?
I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I'm going to because I'm old now. Old people just say stuff.
You're not old. That's number one. So quit it. But we'll give you a pass right now so
We'll
you
give
can
you a
say it
pass.
because we want to hear it.
Um, the city is overdue for a racial reckoning.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
This
Oh
city,
yeah.
until we have a real, honest racial reckoning, nothing is going to get better for Black people in the city.
Agreed.
Because we don't have the numbers, y'all. We don't have the numbers. So our voice, although, people make a big show of acting like they want to hear what we got to say, at the end of the day, our voice is a sliver of this city's population.
Mhm.
As long as the people who are in power and in control um, don't see the value in our communities, don't see the value in the people in these communities, nothing's going to change.
Wow.
And listen, having a Black mayor, people thought, I feel it's awful that we put the amount of pressure that we put on this Black man to fix it.
Absolutely.
He was supposed to fix it all.
In
He was
two
supposed to
years.
come
Or
in with
4 years.
his black wand and sprinkle some magic black man dust all over the place, and all of a sudden, all of our issues were going to go away.
That's the one thing I hope we get rid of is this concept of black magic because we are. I heard actually somebody I love near and dear to me said we are not Lucky Charms. This is
We're
not.
not.
Listen,
Exactly.
I am
There
not
is no
magic.
magic. There's no magic.
Formula.
And let me tell you something. I'm not going to speak for Mayor Gainey, but what I will say, and I don't even want to make this about politics because I hate politics. I think politics is, I hate saying this on election day, but I got issues with how politics, the power structure of politics, not now, but from the beginning,
Mhm.
has been, it hasn't been in our favor ever. But now if you're in a city where the percentage of Black people is less than 17%, think about that.
Wow.
17% of the population. So whoever is in political power, the way politics works is you need a majority voice. You need a majority voice to make things happen. And if your voice, right, what's important because you come from these communities, but the political voice, I don't care if you're mayor, you don't have ultimate power. You have a city council that you have to deal with. You got other quasi-governmental agencies that you have to deal with. Politics is not run by Black people in the city. I don't care if there's a Black man in the administration. That is not how politics works.
Right.
And so as long as we are a real minority in the city, I don't think, and I am starting to sound like a pessimist, and it's sort of because I'm starting to feel very pessimistic.
Mm.
I don't see a lot of change for Black folks happening in this city
Without
because
the racial reckoning.
without the racial reckoning.
Wow.
It's not going to happen because people don't want to admit that they make decisions about what is important in the city based on who they're talking about.
Right.
And if
Wow.
somebody's like, well, that might be important to 15, because it ain't even important to all Black people. So let's take that number down. 17%, take it down to about 14% of the
Right.
people who think in a similar way. That's not enough to move political decisions
But
because 14% can't get you elected.
I always felt Pittsburgh's tagline was "for whom."
I
Not for
mean, because
who.
if you're going to be honest, it's
For
true.
whom?
For whom?
Why
For
the
who?
M though? Why not for who instead of for
I
whom?
think it's
Because you gotta, you gotta put a little stink on it. The whom.
Okay.
for
All
whom.
right, I'll take it.
Tammy,
Hmm.
you said some really poignant things. Now, I'm curious about, and I feel like the racial reckoning is one, but what's one principal piece of advice you would give city leaders and residents to carry forward as we work towards a vision of 2050? And what does give you a little bit of hope about housing justice in the city?
Woo. Okay,
I
so I'll
know.
start with what do we need to do? I don't think anything's going to change until our folks really, really understand the political structure and how politics
Right.
works.
I agree.
I think people have checked out of politics and like, man, that don't have nothing to do with me, and these people gonna do what they want anyway. That's not true. And
Right.
I'm talking politics from every level. I'm talking about, your school board, your, community groups, your showing up to public comment for
Mhm.
a lot of these entities like the land bank, like the housing authority, which I'm on the board of both. And I can tell you that public comment is very, very, very important.
Mhm.
Showing up to meetings, showing up and giving your feedback, but learning what is possible and what's not, because sometimes we're asking for things that aren't possible, and then we get mad when it doesn't happen.
Mm.
We have to understand how this mechanism works. Once we
I'm
understand how the
always wondering,
mechanism works,
Tam, I'm
right?
always wondering how do we, because I think there's just amongst Black folks in particular, I think there's just such a level of intimidation about the political process. And
Yep.
I'm always just thinking, how do we leap over that? Like how do we get folks to the point where they don't feel like that's a system that's just too big for me to understand, let alone go up against?
I think that we have to, first of all, provide real education in layman's terms. I think we may
Right.
overcomplicate
Mhm.
politics. And I've been thinking about this for a long time myself. What does that education look like? Well, first, it can't just happen right before an election. I feel
Right.
like that the conversation about political education only happens around election time. But it should be an ongoing education. It has to be ongoing and it has to be connected to everyday life, right? We have to be able to say, this is why this was important because these folks don't have your best interest at heart because, see, they made a decision to end your SNAP benefits. This school is now pulling the books about Black people off the shelf, but that would only happen because people on the school board allowed it to happen.
Right.
Right? All these things that we know are important for our daily life, we have to create a way and a consistent way to educate people about how this life thing is connected to this political decision.
Wow.
Right? Because we're not. We're like, oh, go get registered to vote. For what?
Right.
Right. For what? For
What does
what?
registered to vote even mean?
Right.
Right? And why do I need to do it? And what does it do? And what uh, we are not
And
we
why
are
has
not.
it not worked thus far?
And why has it not worked
That's a
thus?
big question.
Right? And talking about the tricks that are being used in today's politics.
Oh yeah.
Social I'm gonna tell you right now, social media is gonna be our demise.
I've heard that somewhere else too.
The media is going to be the demise because people aren't paying attention. There is so much more misinformation on the internet than I've ever seen in my life. And people are now unable to tell what's real and what's
Yeah,
not.
and
Yeah.
that's the
That
thing.
and watch what this does for next year's political cycle.
Wow.
It's going to be bad.
Hope.
And our folks don't read, they don't research. Our people are just sharing stuff. They don't know if it's real. They done shared it 50 times. It's driving me crazy because I know that this is going to be a tool that is going to be a detriment to our people. They're going
Whenever,
to be, look at
whenever,
this is how we got black people on the side of Donald Trump, for God's sakes.
yeah.
Because there was so much misinformation and divisiveness, it was strategic for black to start seeing all this stuff in our timelines about black men versus black women, right? You start seeing all this stuff in our timelines about Trump's going to do this for black men. And so you start seeing all these people talking about, no, we vote. It is intentional, it is strategic, and we're falling for it.
Right.
And as long as we're falling for it, they're going to keep feeding it to us because it's benefiting people who do not have our best interest at heart. And unfortunately, if we don't find a way to consistently educate folks, and I think it should start from youth, we got to get these kids, as soon as they turn 18, they got to be ready to go vote. But if we're not educating them, not just saying, you turn 18 now, go get registered to vote. What does it
These
even mean?
conversations that gotta happen in the household and as well as at the school level and
It's got to happen at every level. We've got to make the examples. They have to hit home. The examples have to make sense for people, and you got to put it in terms of, your Social Security. Imagine being 72 and finding out you're not going to have Social Security.
right.
Like, let's research the folks who are voting on these things and see how they voted. Let's see what they've said about these things that are important to us. Because what they say all year and 2-3 years is going to be different than what they say when they're campaigning.
Right.
And I just don't know. I just think we're up against a lot. We're up against a lot. We have a lot of education that we need to do. And I think we've got to get our folks on the same page about what we need in our community, because we're not on the same page. Everybody's not on the same page about what is important and what's not, or what is important. And I think it's all important. I think that's part of the challenge is we're hyper fixating on one particular issue. And then we're like, oh, well, that's not important. It's all important. And if we really look, that's why I love that this comprehensive plan is happening, because it helps people see how connected all of these things are.
Right.
Good education has everything to do with housing and home ownership.
Right.
Right? Strong has everything to do with a strong, healthy business commercial district in Main Street. All of these things are connected. I hear all the time people are like, y'all do a lot of programs, y'all all over the place. We're not all over the place. For people that understand how this works, it's all connected.
Yep.
You can't talk about wealth building and asset building and economic stability without talking about both home ownership and entrepreneurship, because strong, healthy communities require a high percentage of home ownership. High percentages of home ownership are going to get you strong corridors and main streets and commercial districts. Without a strong commercial district, you're not going to have a strong community. If you have a strong commercial district, all of it works together. And then guess what? The schools start getting better. Your school starts having more resources because people are paying more real estate taxes. If they bought a house at a higher value, they're paying more taxes. They're going to pay more taxes than the person who bought a house in 1975, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody came in and bought a house in 2025, that now my real estate taxes are going to go up. That's not how that works.
It's all cyclical at the end of the day. Everything is attached to everything. Everything is affecting everything.
Yes.
I think we're at the point now where we need to recognize that is the truth, and we need to move forward as if we do. So I think organizations, politics, social good spaces, all those things need to recognize that it, like we said at the beginning, it's much more nuanced than we've ever given it credit for. And we all have to at this point, it's, in my opinion, at this point, it's all hands on deck. Like,
It's all
if
hands
your
on
hand's
deck.
not touching the deck right now, you need to ask yourself why it's not touching the deck. And
And
you need to
that's
figure out what
absolutely,
your part is to play. And not necessarily
absolutely.
stay in your lane, but like figure out what it is your part to play and play that
Mhm.
part to the best of your ability. Because we are definitely at unprecedented times. But I think
Unprecedented times.
it's
And
a
here's
real opportunity, though. It's an
it's a
opportunity.
great opportunity. Here's
Yeah.
the other thing. We're not all going to agree on
Right,
everything.
right, absolutely.
There's no way we can get everybody on the same page, but we got to at least be in the same book,
And we got to
right?
give each other grace.
And we also have to recognize that everybody's weapon in the war is going to be different,
Right.
right? I might be an archer. I like archery. You might have guns. You might have, tactical strategy. Everybody has a role, and it's not always going to look the same. But we have to respect everybody's role in this fight
Yeah.
and understand that everybody's weapon is important because we're all fighting the same war. That doesn't mean we're going to use the same weapon, but we're all in the same war. And um, I just this individualistic thinking is not going to get us anywhere.
All right.
It's just
Well, I'm curious, before we wrap up, I've really enjoyed you being here. What is giving you hope nowadays?
ooh. If you'd have asked me this in February or March, I probably would have had a lot to say. Oh, what is giving me hope, Lord? That's a tough question because I'm just going to be honest. Not a lot.
That's okay.
I mean, I'm just being
Okay.
honest. Not a lot is giving me hope these days. I think we are facing some of the toughest issues of our lifetime for many of us.
Mm,
Uh, there are going to be parts of that's never going to recover. Um, I think this city is in for the fight of its life.
mm.
I do. I believe that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And um, quite honestly, it doesn't give me a lot to be hopeful for.
That's okay.
Um, it doesn't. And I got to think about that because that's a bad place for me to be. I don't want to be in that space mentally. I do need to maintain a certain level of hope. But it's really hard right now. It's really, really hard.
Maintaining hope is one of the more redeeming qualities that I think Black culture has, and we
Mhm.
floated on it for a really long time. And I think right now
Mm,
we need
Yeah.
more on that, kind of like what Muffy says. And I think there are a lot of people who feel like you, hopeless, a little bit in
Mhm.
despair, kind of confused about what their
right.
values are, what the American values are. And so I
Yeah.
do think that the city of Pittsburgh's comprehensive plan can try to get all of us in the same place and just say, hey guys, let's just all look around. One second.
Yeah.
Take a second to look around. This is
Mhm.
everything in a nutshell about the city right now. Let's just take a second, stop and look around.
I'm going
And
to say one thing that I think gives me a certain level of hope. I saw this during COVID, during the pandemic. One thing I've noticed is it's always the people with the least who
yes,
are willing to give and do and serve. And that always gives me hope. Over the last few weeks, when we were concerned about whether or not people's SNAP benefits were going to come through or not, the first thing I noticed was community folks, regular people, small grassroots orgs jumping right into action. It's always the folks with the least that are willing to give the most. And that does give me hope because I do believe that there is a potential for it to get really bad in a lot of communities. So it does give, although that is sad and it breaks my heart and it terrifies me, the thing that does give me hope is that folks are going to be okay because they're going to automatically and organically put together and take care of each other. And I do have hope for that. Yeah, that's where I have hope right now. Our people, our folks, how they take care of each other, how they serve each other, how they, are. all ready to jump in action when our community has needs is the only thing right now I can say is giving me hope.
Well, Tammy, Muffy, I don't know if there's any final words from you, but I
I
so
just want to woo saw us all.
Ooh,
Woo saw.
whew.
I want to make sure that we leave this conversation honoring that Black women have always done their part. That
Mhm,
we have done, we are doing out.
mhm,
And that's it.
that's
That's
it.
it. That's all. Because I
yeah,
agree with you. There's not much, but I'm
mm-mm,
so proud of all of the Black people, period.
yeah,
Black women, Black men. I'm so proud of us. I'm proud of us no matter where we're at, whether we in Pittsburgh or Baltimore or
that's
Cleveland,
right.
down here in Tampa with me. I see how we consistently create community. We consistently do the things that make each other at least feel like there is some hope. Now, when we look outside of that, I don't know what there might be to be hopeful for, but I know whenever I meet another sister, another brother, I always leave like, okay, we gonna
I
be
feel a
all
little bit better, right? You
right.
feel like, okay, I'm not by myself. We can, if nothing else, we can survive.
Yes,
But survive, I've been just tired of surviving, you
I
know?
agree,
It's
100%.
time for us to, and it's always a monkey wrench thrown, right? We start getting our footing and another monkey, and we know that's intentional. We
Right,
know it's intentional, which is why it's important for us to fortify ourselves and each other, because if you don't see it by now, the majority of these folks don't care about us.
Yeah.
right,
They're never going to choose us first,
Mm,
right? Now we're going to prioritize us first.
mm.
It's we can get that in our mind and understand that we need to be working from that reality. I think things could be different for us in this
right.
city.
Because we
But as
can
long as
prioritize
we
that.
want other folks to come and make it all better for us, that is never going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Tammy, thank you so much for joining us today on our PGH 2050 podcast live stream as we talk about the comprehensive plan. I think all of the things that you talked about, this holistic concept of healing and solution building and community, is what
Yeah.
Pittsburgh needs to move towards. And I feel like there's so many good things that I'm going to walk away reflecting on from this conversation, especially about fortifying ourselves to choose ourselves
Mhm.
first.
Yep.
That is a real everyday battle. And
Mhm.
I pray that, whatever little hope you both find in the corners of your world, that you hold on to it and you share it with other people.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Tammy,
That's my
for your realness, your candor, your vulnerability. I think that's the way relationships are molded and built. And so
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your presence with us today. And Muffy, as usual, you always give me life. So thank you so
Yes.
much. Everyone, please visit the pgh2050.com website to hear more about these things, but also please add the realistic perspective that Tammy is asking about. Don't just read the vision statements, but say, how does this apply to my everyday 24-hour life?
Mhm.
And so join us every Tuesday at 12. We will be here on your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and your YouTube. Thank you both. Really appreciate y'all. And we'll see
My
y'all.
pleasure. Thank you for the work you guys are doing. This is really, really important. So thank you for the work
Thank
you're
you for
doing.
the work you're doing,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Tammy. Thank you so much. All right, y'all.
Hey, peace, y'all.